Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being with me on this last minute broadcast. Not sure if Watchful is going to make it because this was literally last minute. Like I was reading X and noticed Ben's video explaining the severity of this. And he was very, very adamant that this was the sun. And I'm not sure if anybody saw the video that I linked on Facebook, but he outlined some pretty alarming stuff. So, everybody that's in the chat, thank you so much for coming out on this last minute video. I'm going to take a look here and see who all showed up this evening on this last minute request. We have Shipley, Javier, Astro, Raggedy Granny, huh? Flora Falls. Let's see, who else? Joe Man. So, hopefully everybody's doing good. And if you guys can answer in the chat, how many people experienced outages yesterday? To give you an idea, here, my personal cell phone worked just fine. My wife's cell phone was down for 5 hours. My work phone, which is also on AT&T, was down for 5 hours. So it was interesting that right out of the gate, it was partial networks down. And then I learned to find out that it was not just AT&T. It was a whole slew of different services, stuff that's not even tied together. From my understanding, even Elon Musk's system, the name of it evades me right now, but Starlink, it went down as well. And what makes that very interesting is Starlink is next to impossible to hack. So after doing some research and reading and listening to Ben's video, it is clear now that this was the sun. The timing was very suspicious as well. Now, for folks that are here, has you guys watched the A Disaster is Coming video by Ben that really outlines everything that is actually happening right now? I posted it on Facebook. And I feel like it's mandatory watch. It's not a long video. It's like 10 or 15 minutes. Matter of fact, I'm going to play it right now for you guys. I feel it's that important because what is going on right now, he has been forecasting this for about 2 years. His timeline used to be into the 2030s before we started seeing things, but he has moved up his timeline. And we are literally seeing his timeline unfold. So, folks, if you could answer in the chat, have you guys seen Ben's video that outlines what is going on with the sun, the timeline of what is to come, and exactly what is in play? So I'm going to let you guys answer that before I go any further. All right, so you haven't watched it. I see Deb says she hasn't watched it. Let's see. Roger says my wife's iPhone was out, but my iPhone was fine. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing in my household. My iPhone worked. My wife's didn't. And let's see here. Brenda said still cannot get my prescription filled. So we're going to play this. This isn't a long video, but guys, I feel like this is really important for everybody to understand exactly what we're dealing with. This is something that this topic can no longer be ignored. It can't, because we are literally seeing it play out. I'm not sure if you guys have kept up with what I've been sharing and what Watchful and I have been sharing for the last few months, but we have had record solar flares and CMEs. It's been almost a weekly occurrence. They give you some food and context. For the last few years, prior to these last maybe 4 or 5 months, we would get maybe one serious solar flare a year, and maybe one CME would follow. We've been averaging 1 to 2 to 3 of these a week, and it's starting to show. So I'm going to play this video. I want you guys to pay attention. It's not a long video, but this really outlines exactly where we're at and what's to come. I want you guys to watch this. This is really, in a nutshell, this is literally playing out, and it's serious. And I hate to say it like that. I'm not one to cause fear mongering, but this is literally playing out. So in a nutshell, what is happening in this video, he's outlining the magnetic field of Earth has been weakening over the last 100 years, just to give you some context. And the sun is having record-breaking outbursts. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but in the late 1800s, we had what was called a Carrington event that had released a major CME. It was a big X-flare. At that time, they had just put up the phone lines. There wasn't a lot of electrical grid of anything, but they had just put up the telephone wires. And this solar flare produced a CME that burnt the telephone wires literally to the core. They had to replace everything from scratch. It burnt every copper wire that was ran. Just to give you some context, if that happened in today's age, every piece of electronic would literally be useless. The only things that you would have that would work would be stuff that operated on older technology, maybe vehicles, cars, trucks from the 60s and 70s, old ham radio equipment, stuff like this amp back here that operates on tubes. Anything that you have in a Faraday box, like I've built a few Faraday boxes, and you can actually jerry-rig your own Faraday box with simply getting a metal trash can from like Tractor Supply. These metal trash cans will actually block out those high frequency CMEs type stuff. And the one way you can test that is to put a cell phone in there and try to call it. The video that I'm going to have you guys watch, it's important because what we're in store for in the next, maybe it could be 10 years or it could be next week. And I don't like to fearmonger, but it's actually reality now. And I was hoping we wouldn't have to have this conversation right now. I was hoping that this was something that was going to be pushed off till, later this decade into the 2030s. But it's becoming really, really clear that his timeline is moving along as scheduled. So what's happening is in the 1800s, we had a big CME, a big solar flare. It was a Carrington event. Not sure if I explained this and you guys heard it, but pretty much all we had was phone wires back then. All we had was phone wires. They had just started putting up the grid right about the time of the Carrington event. Mostly everything else was still mechanical, but when that X-flare hit and produced that mega CME, it burnt the telegraph wires to the core. They all had to be replaced. Every copper wire burned. Now, to put that into perspective, if that happened today, the entire grid would go down for an extended period of time. The cell phones, electricity, all communications, the internet, pretty much anything that has copper wires will toast. The few ways you can prevent that is having a Faraday box or a metal trash can that you can get from Tractor Supply. You can actually put your stuff in this metal trash can, and the one way to test that it's sealed is to put a cell phone in there and try to call it. If you cannot get a cell phone signal through, it's safe. But you can get these metal trash cans from Tractor Supply or Home Depot for maybe $30. I have a few of them, and I have backup radio gear in there and a few solar generators and stuff of that nature. Anything that's important that's electronic, you're going to want to have in some type of safe setting, because it's no longer speculation. I was really hoping that this was something that was going to be next decade, but it's clear now what is happening. Yesterday was just a taste of it. Our electronic, it's an ionosphere that protects the Earth from these solar storms, is clearly weakening, just as Ben has said. The fact that many cell phones and networks went down for not just a little bit, but 4 to 5 hours. It took them 4 to 5 hours to get this stuff back up. And this was not even a direct shot. This was just the remnants of an X-class flare. So it wasn't a direct shot. It's just clearly showing that our protective magnetic field is no longer holding. So it's only a matter of time. It could be 10 years, and it could be next week. But you guys, I need you to prepare. You don't have to do anything drastic, but make small preparations, please. Because your ability to go to the store and buy food and stuff like that nature, that will be kind of out the window. Most of society will panic. And things will be okay, but you just have to be prepared. The reason I press the topic of ham radio so much is a lot of the older ham radios, like one of the radios I have behind me, operates on tubes. Not a lot of copper wire. And ham radio is completely independent from the grid. Completely independent from the grid. I see someone said microwave. Yes, you can put stuff in a microwave. That'd do just fine as well. One way you test it, again, is if you want to really make sure that it's sealed, is put a cell phone in there and try to call it. If your cell phone signal cannot get through, or it does get through, you'll have your answer. But with the ham radio rigs, done correctly, you have global comms that's completely independent from the grid. It requires no network, no satellites. I know I've mentioned in the past that I use satellites, but I use those to communicate with folks that are in orbit in the ISS, and there's other ways of using it. But for just the basic ham radio communications, just like what's going on behind me on my screen, you can communicate with the world. Every one of these little peaks that you see, the red lines that are moving up and down with the little yellow spikes, these are conversations. Here, I'll show you guys. This guy's in South America. Another South America.
Vienna, copy 5-9.
Here we go.
I copy your 5-9. Thank you for the contact. Thank you for your service. November, Quebec, 0 Romeo. You guys go ahead. I'll be listening for a little bit. I can run down the hall and I'll be on the side. M-A-U-U-X. Yeah, okay, Ted, real good. Just real quick, gentlemen, for both of you. I know I just turned on the processor, even though the power's a little bit lower. Is it any better or is it worse?
All right, so everybody that I'm listening to, these guys are thousands of miles away. These are not local two-way communications. I'm broadcasting and listening on a vertical antenna that's on the side of my house, and I'm receiving signals from South America, West Coast, Midwest. So you're able to communicate globally. It's not what a lot of people perceive as like, a lot of people when they think ham radio, they think stuff like this. This is a ham radio, which is a lot like a CB. These are two-way. They are line-of-sight radios. So you have communications for a mile to 5 miles out. They are line-of-sight. The way HF ham radio works It's propagation. What that means is it actually goes to the atmosphere, deflects off the ionosphere, and comes back down. A good metaphor would be it's like playing a game of pool. You have a bank shot. These signals bounce around. They never leave the atmosphere. So once you dial it in and fully understand how it works, and the time of day matters, because during the day, the ionosphere is closer to Earth, so your deflection point is more localized, meaning during the day, you have about 1,000-mile range. Usually I'm in the Georgia area, so I can talk to people in New York, Florida, as far out to maybe West Tennessee. Now in the evening, as the ionosphere is pulled back, now you have full global comms, where just like we were listening to with South America, California, Canada, it's you can really dial in your antenna to what you're looking for. The point I'm making is I use dedicated frequencies for everybody that is close to me. And I publish them also on our Facebook page and on our website. I've put my emergency frequencies because communication will be key, guys. Without communication, you'll be completely in the dark to what's going on. You'll be completely in the dark to what is going on. All right, you guys give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I got a few people saying they can't hear. Yeah, I'll put the link. I'll put the link in the video description. Just bear with me. Can't watch it right now anyways because I'm live, but I won't stay live real long. But I saw a question, what is a CME? It's a coronal mass ejection. Essentially, the sun flares. And when the sun flares, it produces essentially an EMP. And most of you are aware of what the EMP is. Essentially, it takes down the electronics, and which is why I was talking about ham radio. When you have your radio system set up, and it's not as complicated as a lot of what people think. There's a channel that I recommend called Ham Radio Crash Course. A friend of mine named Josh out of California, he runs it, and he can walk you through just about everything. There's not a lot to it. My radios all operate off solar, and you can essentially get a car battery and connect it, and it will give it power. They run on 12 volts. They don't run on 110, so they work in your car. They work on, big battery. This right here, that says 13.2, that's a big lithium phosphate battery that I have solar panels connected to, and actually this whole office runs on solar. There's no 110 in this office, and my office actually is a big Faraday cage. I have wrapped, I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but the walls are wrapped in Faraday material. So it's one reason I get no cell phone service when I'm in my office, because I'm blocking out all the signals from the outside. I get that's a negative, but I have a lot of sensitive electronics in here, and I know what's coming. I know what's in the mail. And communication will be key for me. I have loved ones all over the world. My parents are in West Tennessee. Me and my father, we talk on 40 meters ham radio, usually every week on frequency 7297, just to practice. And a lot of folks, like the folks we were just listening, they chat every night on ham radio because, it's a fun hobby. And it's not really monitored by Big Brother, and it's really difficult to track. It's almost censor-proof because no one can shut it down. What the feds can do is put out an obstruction signal, but that only works on certain frequencies, and it would also require power for them to do that. But not sure that's something that's in the cards, because there's so many different ham bands and different frequencies and wavelengths that it would be next to impossible for them to do that. They'd end up blocking their own communications with their own military if they did that route. So let's see here. What questions do you guys have? Man, I got another person saying, Chris, we can't hear you. I have muted myself. Have I really muted myself? I see my switchboard says that it's coming through. Guys, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I'm confused why some folks can hear me and some cannot. So weird. He says, I can't hear him at all. That's Jeremiah. And Grateful Warrior says, I can hear you. I can hear you. Grace says, no. I can hear you. I can hear you. Oh, no, can hear you just fine. Oh, I bet some of the folks that are behind caught the 2 minutes of the broadcast where, like an idiot, I muted myself because I was intentionally playing the video that didn't work. So, okay, so we're good to go. Where was I? All right. So the moral of the story is, guys, we have to prepare. There's many different ways that you can prepare. I would recommend having some source of electricity. There's many ways to go about doing this. I like solar generators because they don't require gasoline. Gasoline may be difficult to come by in the near future. You can just simply collect sun power, and there you have it. One of my favorite brands, and they have no affiliation with me, is a company called Goal Zero. They make something called a Yeti, and it's solar powered generator. Now you can get the gasoline generators that are relatively cheap as well, but the downside to that is it puts out a very loud audio signature, meaning if you're trying to lay low and people are looking for people to take advantage of, you're letting everybody know where your position is with the gasoline generator running. So it's not a bad idea to have one. I would just use that as a backup source. I like solar power. It's renewable. That being said, make sure your power is taken care of, whether it's a gas generator or a solar power generator. I really recommend everybody getting some sort of ham radio. I know that's not in everybody's cards, but I can't underscore enough that you don't want to be in the dark trying to figure out what is going on. When there's nothing, no way to communicate, the not knowing can be mentally handicapped. You know, your mind will automatically start assuming the worst, and being completely in the dark and cut off from communications, you know, can mentally put you in a bad place. Even if you're not broadcasting out, the fact that you can listen to what's going on around the world will matter. And you can get some of these rigs for just a few $100. And the antennas are relatively cheap. I put a post on our website blog that outlined my favorite radios and some of my favorite antennas. So, if you guys need more information, I'll be glad to help, but you're going to want to learn in advance how to use them. And that's when you go to Josh at Ham Radio Crash Course, because it's got a little bit of a learning curve. You have to understand how the signals come in from the air, stuff of that nature. All right, so you have your communications and your power worked out. Need to make sure you have some sort of food backed up. I don't go crazy with expensive food. Usually every week when I go to Walmart, I'll buy $15 worth of canned goods. And I just, I've been, adding to the stash now for a year and a half, 2 years. You can literally get some of their beefaroni or vegetables or just some of their basic canned goods for like 78 cents a can. And I know that's not a lot if you only buy 12 or 15 at a time. But if you go every week over the course of a year or two, it starts to add up. So, got a lot of oodles and noodles, a lot of canned goods, and just, some other things. I know that it's not in the cards for a lot of people to buy all these prepping meals. I'd love to buy them too, but they're expensive. Like a 30-day supply of that, that prep food is $400 or $500. A lot of us don't have that type of money to spend on stuff like that. So, I feel, let's see here. I got someone, hey, Chris, have all the questions in caps so you can see them better. Yeah, sorry, guys. Let's see here. Read Malachi 4. what's the average startup cost for a solar ham radio? You can get a used ham radio probably off eBay for $300 or $400 that will do the job. I don't recommend the cheaper ones. You know, people say that you can get the Baofeng radios, which are the little handhelds, but those are just line of sight radios. It's the same thing as a CB. You need to have what's an HF radio. You need to be able to receive global comms. So you can get a used good ham radio for $300 or $400. And then the best part is the antenna is the easy part. Probably one of the best antennas that money can buy is a $99 wire antenna. And I'll put there's actually a link on our website. But essentially, it's a wire antenna. You string it up between two high points and a tree to another tree. And this literally gives you global comms. It's a wire, maybe 100 feet long, and it's literally a pre-tuned antenna that will give you global comms. It's by a company called MFJ. It's the 5G VR, I believe, is the brand and the model number. But again, on our website, I have a blog post that outlines this. So for about $400, you can be up and running, and you can listen to global comms. And as you get better at it, you'll be able to broadcast and communicate. You don't have to necessarily right out of the gate buy some solar, because a car battery, really any 12-volt battery will work. Just needs to have enough amps to push the amp. But like, I'll connect my radio to my car battery if I need to. But as far as solar power generators and whatnot, there's a lot of options there. You can just go on Amazon and look at all the different solar power generator options. You can get solar panels for literally about $100 for a decent size 100-watt solar panel. But so you got food, you got electricity that you generate, you have communications. You know, water is important. You know, I buy water usually once a week when I go. I don't buy the fancy water. I just buy, you know, the $3, $4 cases of water. Again, I don't spend a lot of money every time I go because I just don't have it like that. But if you make it a habit to do it every week, it starts to grow, if that makes sense for you guys. It starts to grow. One other thing I recommend is, you know, and some people will disagree with me on this, but I recommend having some way to defend yourself and your family, because folks are going to get ruthless. I understand that we are protected by the Lord, and I'm good with that. If it was just me, I would be totally good. If someone had to do what they had to do, that would just say that I'm with the Lord sooner than later. But I have a bunch of small kids and a wife that I feel like I ultimately am responsible for their safety. So that's why I say what I say. You know, so some way to be able to protect yourself. Does that make sense, guys? Now I'm going to take a few questions and I'll continue on. Austin says, no audio. Yeah, you probably caught the beginning of the show when I messed up. Water is most important. Yeah, it's most important. We have a massive saltwater pool behind our house. For the last 6 months, I have not been putting salt in it. I've just been letting the sand filter run and keeping it clean. I know that's kind of cheating, but worst case scenario, I will get the water out of my pool because I've stopped putting chemicals and salt and all sorts of stuff in it. I just let the sand filter run. I'll back flush the sand filter about once a week. If the pH and stuff kind of gets out of whack, I'll just shock it. And especially in the wintertime, it doesn't really require all those chemicals. The stuff is not going to grow in the water. So if you have a pool, that's a great source of water. Just keep your filter running. And I'd recommend, you know, at least until the summer comes around, to back off on the chemicals. Because, you know, water's water. All right, so read Matthew 24:19. The prepping artist says, I would love to be a guest about prepping because I'm a diehard prepper. Yeah, that sounds great, man. We'd love to have you on. You know, I can tell by your name that you possibly, you know, have a clue to what's going on. So We'll put that. I'll let Watchful know that you want to come on the show because I feel like it's important for folks that know. A book that I recommend having, this book here, No Grid Survival Project. It literally has everything that you may need, stuff you can use out of just stuff you have at home. Something else I recommend, a road atlas. Maps. You're going to need them. Your phone will not have GPS. Your maps won't work on your phone. You won't have navigation. Most of everybody doesn't know how to get around outside of their town, really, without the navigation on their phone. I'm not sure of how many people really understand that. You know, I can probably make it to my parents' house in West Tennessee because I've been there so many times, and I can probably get around my hometown relatively easy. But once I get away from the city, I don't have the paths to Birmingham and Chicago or wherever else I'm going memorized. I always used my phone GPS. Another book I recommend is The Strategic Relocation Guide. This is a really, really good book. It's a North American guide to safe places. It tells you everything around you. It will tell you all the military bases, all the storage supplies, all the camps that they will use for FEMA. It will tell you all the water sources in your area, all the fresh water sources. I mean, essentially everything that you would need to Google and find out for resources will be in that book. And of course, I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of stuff, but, you know, I didn't plan on coming on the show and doing a prepping show. I just wanted to underscore the importance of what's happening right now, guys. Yesterday, with the grid going partially down for 4 to 5 hours, that was literally a warning shot over the bow. Literally a warning shot over the bow. And you could see the powers that be scrambling because their messages were mixed on mainstream media. Some were saying it was a hack. Some were saying it was a software failure update. Some were talking about the solar flare, but they couldn't get their story straight. If it was a hack, there would have been more widespread outages. Entire sections would have gone down. What I mean by that is my phone worked, but my wife's phone didn't. That's not how a hack of the cell phone tower would work. My whole house would go down if this network in this area was hit. So does that make sense? So it's definitely a warning shot. You know, it went down for 4 or 5 hours. That tells me that our protective magnetic field is weakening severely because it wasn't even a direct shot, guys. The next one could be lights out. No comms, no electricity, nothing. You know, we will simply be canning for food. A lot of people say they're going to hunt and fish. That's not going to fly. The reason it's not going to fly is think about the other 300 million Americans that are going to be hunting and fishing as well. There's only so many live critters out there that you can hunt. I'm pretty sure that area is going to dry up like that. So, guys, prepare. Please. I don't want to have this conversation more than once. And, you know, if something else more serious happens with the sun, I'll come on. Me and Watchful will come on immediately. But these are warning shots and these are signs. And it matters to me. You know, I enjoy our community. I care about you guys. Deborah says, grow your own food. Yes. If you're in a position where you have some sort of farm, I would have chickens there. Grow your own food. Be as independent as you can. If you have a well on your property where you can provide yourself water without having to, be dependent on the grid water system, extremely important, because the water filtering plants and all the grid water, within a few hours of grid going down, that stuff would be offline. There won't be a whole lot of venturing out to gather supplies because people are going to panic. You don't want to be a part of the panic. People do crazy stuff when they're worried about food and supplies. Get ahead of the 8 ball. Like I said, don't spend a bunch of money up front to gather all your stuff. Just put together a plan and just start adding to the stuff you need. Food, water. I know it's a long list and it can be overwhelming, but you have to put together a plan. There's several friends that I've been telling, please act on your plan. I got several friends that have bought ham radios, but they haven't taken them out of the box. You won't be able to, watch a YouTube video on how to operate these things when you actually need them. I know folks are busy. They got to work. They have to earn a living. But you have to make some time and prioritize. It's the last thing on my mind, at least right now, is trying to make a living and my job. I love my job, but I love my family more. And I feel like I'm responsible to prepare and provide for them. Those of you who have kids, I'm sure the thought is terrifying, not being able to protect and provide for them. So you understand where I'm at. So let's see here. Wooden matches, yes, good to have. Let's see here. Grow your own potatoes, yes. I feel bad for the elderly down here. Yeah, I feel bad for them too. They won't last long. Potatoes, yes. Birth pains, yes. We're definitely having birth pains. Someone says buy seeds now. 100%. I've been collecting seeds for quite some time. Matter of fact, you can get a Lowe's, Home Depot, Garden Ridge, and you can get these little paper things of seeds, whether it be tomatoes or whatever your fancy is. They used to be cheap. You used to be able to buy these packs for like 50 cents. Now they're like $3 a pack. I mean, they're smoking crack on their prices now, but still, you got to have seeds because growing stuff is important. Let's see here. If you don't prepare now, you'll be caught off guard. 100%. It's not a matter of if, guys. That's a fact. Don't be caught unprepared. And again, you don't have to go buck wild trying to prepare. Just put together a plan that's feasible and just act on it. My plan is simple. I go to Walmart once or twice a week to get the essentials for my family. Because, when you have 4 kids and you're married, there's all sorts of essentials that you need, whether, the regular food that they eat or, you know how it goes. But every trip I go, I will spend $15 to $20 on my stash, whether that be $15 in canned goods and $5 on water or whatever. Slowly add to it. Slowly add to it. Make yourself a list of everything that you feel like you'll need. And I'm sure folks like the prepping artist that volunteered to come on the show, write me a list, prepping artist, what you feel are the key essentials that everybody needs, and I'll publish it on the blog post and I'll publish it on Facebook. And folks can use this list and just go down it. Start skipping meals now so you can easily do that later. Yes, Dustin, I agree. I fast all day and I eat at the end of the night. For about the last 2 years, that has been my MO. I used to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I've been gearing my body towards eating less. So I fast from the time I wake up. It's not till about right now that I actually eat dinner. I don't take in any calories until sun has gone down. And it's not for any religious reasons. I know that, some people do it for like that, but I'm conditioning my body I drink only water and coffee during the day, and my coffee, I drink it black. Let's see here. Handful of books. Yes, you're going to want to have books. Again, you're not going to be able to access YouTube or the internet for your resources. And there's some key books that can cover a lot of stuff. Let's see what else. Questions. Off topic, Christopher, what band were you in back in the day? Back in the day, I spent a lot of time with a band called Pantera. I did sound and roadie work with them, did some drum work. It was all heavy metal stuff. Stuff that I wouldn't necessarily say that I was proud to be associated with, but at the same time, I wouldn't do it any other way. It made me who I am. I saw a really dark side of the world being involved in the heavy metal industry. And it's made me who I am. I can appreciate things so much more as I was on the streets, essentially homeless with a heavy metal band for years. There was times that I was sleeping on the couch at our rehearsal space. I had nothing. I'm not educated. I didn't finish the 9th grade. Didn't go to college. So I learned life the hard way through a lot of mistakes. Though in the end, for the last 20 years, I have been a completely different direction. And it's been since about 2020 that I went head over heels into the life of Christ. Prior to that, I was one of those guys that went to church once a week, said I was a Christian, felt like I was doing the right thing, but I was what you would call lukewarm. So for 20 years after being out of the heavy metal band, I was lukewarm. But since 2020, there was a shift, and I would say it's almost an obsession to learn the Bible and everything about it, and to have that relationship with Christ. It's the center point of my life, which is why I enjoy doing these shows, because it's all about Christ, and I enjoy the community. I like being a part of everybody that's in the chat. It's it's you guys are my family, because to be quite frank, most of everybody I know kind of went cold on me. None of them want to hear about Christ. They tell me to mind my own business. A lot of my own family is the same way. So I'm on my own for the most part, and I'm somewhat isolated in my faith, as I've tried to witness to a lot of people, but a lot of who I've been close with over the years have essentially shut the doors on me. Fortunately, my parents are beautiful people, and their faith is just as strong as mine. I grew up with 2 blessed parents. That being said, I had a very rebellious point in my life. When I turned 15, I left the house. I had long hair. I wasn't the ideal child. I feel really bad for the stress that I put my parents under. So, I left when I was 15 and went years without talking to my family. I was on the streets and doing my own thing. I grew up in Philly, and it was kind of a tough life growing up on the streets of Philly. But again, it made me who I am today. It gave me a sense of work ethic. And in my 20s, I started my wedding photography business. And that got me out of the music scene. And then, fast forward another 20 years, and I was at the top of my industry, the gold standard in the wedding business. Around 2020, after I'd been in business for about 20 years, I started having this calling to just be with Christ all the time. And I really started to phase out my wedding business and focus on the Bible and my relationship with Him. Watchful and I talked for a few years after reconnecting and been talking about doing this show for quite some time. And then after a long time of talking about it, we launched it in mid-December. So we're into about I guess you could say we're right about 3 months now. And here we are today. And what is beautiful about it is the community that we have built. All you guys in the chat, you guys are my family, because most of everyone that I've connected with outside of here and have known over the years, they don't want to have anything to do with me in my relationship with Christ. My parents, they're wonderful people, and they do too. So I'm very blessed that I'm on the same page with them. But everybody else, for the most part, they have very little interest in it. I'm very fortunate that my boss at my day job, he is a hardcore Christian, and me and him can talk until the cows come home about Christ and prophecy. And matter of fact, one of our episodes that we did about a month ago about the Islamic Antichrist, he was the one that told me the story about Abraham and his sons and how that went down. So I'm very blessed that my day job is just an awesome family-owned business. It's been a real blessing being involved with that job. And what's an interesting part of that story is last summer I really started to wind down my wedding business. Like, I stopped taking a lot of business. And in a way, God never audibly spoke to me, but he said, something new is coming for you. I didn't know what at that point. We still hadn't put any of the logistics together for the show. And my daytime employment, this was not even on the table. But I started winding down my wedding business, which had essentially provided for my family and my lifestyle for the last 20 years. It was a big risk to do so. My wife thought I was crazy. She's like, "What are you doing? You don't have anything lined up." And I was like, well, this is what I feel is the right thing to do. Again, God never audibly talked to me, but in a way he did through the Spirit, because I knew that there was something coming. So I just had faith that he would provide. And about, 6 months later in mid-December, when the funds were really drying up, because I had been turning away wedding business for the prior 6 months, and we were down to the wire, blown through all our savings. My current employer offered me a job. Didn't even see it coming. And it's been a blessing in disguise, and it's been freaking awesome. It's just an awesome place to work. They let me do it my way, completely unrestrained, and allow me to do what I do and do best. And our show launched in December. So it went from really nothing over 6 months and just having faith that God had something lined up, to all of a sudden it all took off. The show took off and the job offer came in, and here I am. But everybody thought I was crazy for about 6 months. They were like, "Why are you turning away wedding work?" And the reason I was is because when I take on these weddings, they book them out a year or two in advance. So I'm committed to cover these weddings. So I was turning away wedding work, which was the majority of my income, because, people would make deposits for these weddings that are a year or two out. And, it was a large sum of money. I'm not going to go into any specifics, but, the income generated from the wedding business was, a lot more than most. But it was a leap of faith. And I'm glad that I stuck with it and followed my gut feeling, because here I am today. We have this show. I have this other job, and I love both. Even the other job, he's building a studio at it so that I can have a live show there, because he wants me to do a show for that business as well. and I'll be able to use the studio for even this show anytime I want to. So that's where I'm at. There's my life story in a nutshell. I did not plan on getting into that. I didn't plan on telling you guys that I'm an uneducated idiot, but there you have it. All right, so what questions do you guys have? What questions? Let's see here. My daughter has a big greenhouse full of... That's nice. I'd like to help you scripture reading on the channel. Help me be with Christ. Hey, Lauren, if you want to help with scripture reading and whatnot, we have about 7 or 8 people that are now in our administration group in the channel. And every one of them have come to us through this network right here. I start chatting with them through email, kind of get a feel for who they are, kind of look them up on social media, make sure that I'm not dealing with someone that could be a potential derail. But I feel like God has led me to everybody and led Watchful to everybody that we have in our group. We have a wonderful group now. We have Kip and Stephanie, and we have Rooster now. We have Anthony, Dr. Sean Greener. We have Cindy. We have, I can't pronounce her name, Tahani, Tahana. She's awesome. She does, gathers the news for the show and puts that all together for us. So I'm real interested in, talking to other people. Someone asked, how old were you when you were saved? I grew up in the church with my parents. So I was baptized at an early age. Was I saved? I don't know. I don't know how the technicalities of that work because I grew up in the youth group and whatnot, but I went through a very rebellious period in my life. I was 14, 15. I wasn't doing school. I was playing music in my bedroom, playing guitar, playing drums, piano, all that stuff, and then was playing in a band, and my parents were like, look, you got to do something with your life. You got to get your grades up or you got to go. Well, they didn't kind of say it like that, but that's essentially what they were saying. So I left, and we didn't talk for years. We reconnected back around 20 years old, 21. And I guess you could say I was saved again at 20 or 21, but I was still lukewarm. I went to church every Sunday at that point, but I wasn't living my life through Christ. I would, 2 hours a week, I was a part of, Christ was a part of my life. Other than that, I was focused on this world and making money, buying material objects, having fun, living it up. At this point in my life, from the 20s all the way up to I was 40, I was making it, in that top 1% earnings with my wedding business, just because I'm not sure if you guys have ever had a wedding, but weddings cost a lot of money. So, it's a profitable business to be in. I'm 48 now. So in 2020, there was a shift. And we've talked about this, how a lot of us felt this shift. And I guess you could say I was truly saved in 2020. Again, Christ has always been a part of my life, but he really wasn't. I said that he was, but, I'd be lying to you if I said I was, quote, quote, saved. Maybe I was. I've always believed that Christ died on the cross for all of us. That has never been a doubt in my mind. So if that makes me saved, I guess you could say so. But I wasn't living my life for Christ, through Christ. And that didn't start until about 2020, maybe late 2019. So that's where I'm at today. The last, 4.5 years, I've been just completely, pretty much all day long, feet first, nose first into the Word of God. Even when I'm working, I'm still listening in my ear. I'll listen to scripture as I work. People are always sending us YouTube videos, and most of the YouTube videos I don't even watch. I just listen to them with the AirPods in my ear, just because I constantly have this deep yearning to learn when it comes to, the Bible and Christ. So, let's see here. Philly, wow, that's not important. Let's see. Hair dye and Botox are so important down here. My wife would agree with you. But, Roger says purpose comes later at times. That's absolutely true. Because, what's interesting is that I feel like my entire life has been prepping me to do this. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but our show took off quickly. The video production quality was fast. All the graphics were fast. And it was not because we hired someone. It was just already my trade craft to operate cameras, to produce graphics, to video edit. All that stuff I'd already been doing for 20 years. So we got lucky. I've already been dealing with that type of line of work, so to speak, and helped a lot of YouTube channels launch and yada, yada. But it's funny how God puts the plans in work. Because the way I met Watchful was about 2008. He built the website for my wedding business, which you can still go on. It's chrisbrock.org, www.chrisbrock.org. I still have it going. No sense in taking it down. It's been up for a long time, and, I'll probably always keep it up just because it's a craft that I've always done, and I spent my entire life building it up. And, if certain people reach out to me and want their wedding covered by me, if, the Lord tells me it's the right thing to do and my relationship with that client feels like we're on the same page, sure, I'll cover it. But for those of you who have really solidified your connection with Christ, you see the world in a different place. Stuff you see on TV, you're like, man, that's totally satanic. Or just listening to people talk at different places that you go, you see that they're so absorbed in these worldly things. They're not focused on what's important. So, you just see things in a different light when Christ is at the center point of your life. All right, let's see what questions we have. I've gone on much longer than I expected. I just thought I'd come on here and tell you guys to watch Ben's video and how important it was to prepare. I didn't know I was going to be giving my life story. So throughout my teens and late 20s, I was truly dysfunctional. I always worked hard in the music business, but, I was smoking a lot of weed, took a lot of acid for a long time. I think 1 year when I was 16 or 17, when we were on the road playing music, I think I took acid every day for a year straight. And that was an interesting experience. But have you know, I don't drink or do drugs anymore. It's been a long time. I gave all that up, 15 years ago. I used to occasionally have a beer at night, but around 2019, 2020, I was done with the alcohol. I wasn't a big drinker at that point in my life, but I just lost the urge to do it. It's hard to explain. All right, Ben who? Ben from Suspicious Observers. Here, I'll put the video in the description, guys. You're going to want to watch this. We'll put the video in the description, so you guys bear with me. All right, the link to Ben's video is at the very top of the description. That'll be the first thing you see. First thing you see, link at the top of the description. Watch that when the show is over. I know I've said it already a dozen times, but I feel like it's really important for folks to understand exactly what is going on, what we're dealing with. And I'm sorry that I interrupted everybody's, we're not supposed to be on tonight. It's the Sabbath. But, one thing that I slightly disagree with Watchful on is I don't consider this work. We're supposed to rest and not work. And he would say that you're not, you're supposed to take a break from your routine. And he's probably right, because he usually is. But I felt like it was an important message to get out. Again, I don't really, this didn't work to me. I enjoy being here with you guys. Brian Stevens asked, what's your birthday? I'm February 20th is my birthday. February 20th. Matter of fact, I think I just had a birthday. Cowboy, be baptized in the water and then in the spirit and the fire. Yeah, it's definitely important. I feel like, a lot of people will tell you that being baptized has no relevance to your being saved. And that may be the case, but I think it makes a difference. I think it definitely makes a difference. I can't explain why, but I just think it makes a difference being baptized. Will it cause you to not go to heaven? I don't think so. For me, and from what the Holy Spirit conveys to me, the simplicity of being saved is rather simple. You focus on a personal relationship with Christ. You simply believe that he died on the cross for all mankind, died, rose again after 3 days, and went to heaven. And then you repent. I typically repent every day, because we're all sinners. We all do something every day that, after you do it, you're like, I shouldn't have said that or done that. But none of us are perfect. There was only one perfect person that walked this earth, and that was Christ. So the relationship with Christ is what's key, guys. I can't underscore that enough. So many people that I know in faith, they get so caught up on the legalistics of being saved. And, I don't feel like that's the right thing to do, to get legalistic and judgmental with folks. They may have some truth to what they're saying, but that's just not the way I see it. The way I see it is you have a personal relationship with Christ. And when you do that, the Holy Spirit will come in your body and literally transform your life. You don't have to try to change these certain aspects of yourself. It will all happen naturally over time. And then one day you'll be like, I don't feel the same as I used to. And when you allow Christ to lead your path, your walk, the joy that comes through everyday life and interactions with people, it changes. And it's something that I recommend for everybody. If you're new and don't understand being saved, I promise you it's not as difficult as you think it is. It's not. And if you stick around on this channel, eventually you'll figure it out, because Watchful and I, we push a very simple message. You have a relationship with Christ. Period. Everything else, if you have a personal relationship with Christ, everything else comes naturally. Everything. Because if you have that personal relationship with Christ, you believe that he died on the cross, because that connection, everything else will connect and make sense with you. All right, I'm going to wrap this up, guys. I don't wear a cross at work since they wear the Star David necklace. If you wear a cross, it is what it is. It's not my place to judge. Some people wear a cross, some people don't. There's, arguments for both sides. But again, it's not my place to judge when it comes to what folks do. The only thing that really matters to me is that you guys just have a relationship with Christ. That's it. Everything else will be taken care of naturally if you focus on that. So outside of that, I enjoy fellowship with other like-minded people. You guys. Because most of the folks I know outside of my parents, and guys, I know a lot of people, being in the spotlight of the wedding business and being, on the public stage for the last 20 years, you end up meeting a lot of people doing what I do. But I can't tell you really any of them that are on the same page with me. Maybe a few, but no one really wants to have anything to do with me in this conversation point. And it's something that I struggle with because I like to have common ground with someone. And this is what I think about for most of the day. And this is what I want to talk about. So most people avoid me. So hence I come to you guys. That's why Watchful and I talk so much. And everybody in our Two Witnesses Live administration group, we have a group chat on Signal. There's 7 or 8 of us, and we probably message each other back and forth 100 times a day. I kid you not, because we have about 15 different conversations. Some of the conversations will be topics for the show. Some will be news. Some will be website errors that need to be fixed. It's just a list. But we literally interact all day long in our little group because I feel like they're in the same boat as me. No one else really wants to have anything to do with the conversation point. And again, that's why I'm here with you guys, because I enjoy this. All right, so make sure you guys have hit the like button if you haven't already. I know I say that all the time, but it helps the algorithm. If you guys haven't registered on the website, please do that. We don't know how long they're going to allow the YouTube channels, especially those that are faith-based, to continue to flourish. I don't know how long social media will do that. It could be on for a while. Who knows? But I like the community that we've built. The website is free. If you guys want to give to our mission, yes, you have options to give us money there, but it's not a requirement. We just enjoy the community interaction. Watchful works every day building and working on this website. The app that he has built is phenomenal. I was blown away by the app. I put a few previews on Facebook and Twitter of the app, and it looks like $1 million. It's so cool. You'll be able to access the blog there, access our merchandise, watch our videos. But his focus right now is building the community in there. We're going to have a social media platform inside of our ecosystem, a place where we can all congregate and talk just like we are doing now, but it'll be our own private social media platform, our own ecosystem. And once that's set up, no random strangers will be able to just walk in there. You'll have to log in to get through the front door. And once we've got to that point, even if you register, you're still going to have to get approved by someone in our administration chat. So we're going to screen everybody that comes through because it matters to us. Thank you so much for Make Change Happen for your super chat, honey. Thank you. So we're going to screen everybody that comes through the website registration once we launch it full blown. Pretty much everybody that's there now is our regulars. But it's important that you guys do register if you haven't. Link is in the description. Because, you guys are on social media. You see all the other different social media platforms. They're fun. Yeah, you have your friends and your family there, but you got to use some serious discernment on half of the stuff that you see. And I know I'm not the only person thinking this. And eventually the persecution will get real, which is the main reason we've built the website and the ecosystem. It won't go on forever that we'll have the freedoms to talk about our relationship with Christ. Eventually they're going to start cracking down. So that being said, for now, if you haven't, I know a lot of you guys aren't on Facebook, but if you are, like our page, because I post a lot of stuff on our Facebook page. The only thing I really put on YouTube is our videos, and I'll make a few posts in the community to let everybody know what's going on. But for the most part, Facebook is where I communicate with everybody. I'm always posting stuff there, whether it be videos that I like that blew my mind or something as silly as a picture of my stack of Bibles. But I'm glad everybody came out tonight. You guys have no idea. I really enjoy this. It means a lot to me. You guys are my family. Outside of my parents, I don't really have many other people. I know I've said this a bunch of times, but it kind of it's kind of shocking when you step back and think about it, how isolated you are when your faith is completely devoted to Christ. It really singles you out. So, Watchful, on the other hand, he's good being alone. He's a solo artist. He has a relationship with Christ, and that's all that matters to him. He doesn't need the interaction. I think that's his personality style. I forget what church he says he is. I think it's Smyrna. But he says I'm of the Church of Philadelphia, which apparently I like people, which I guess is true because I like the interaction with everybody. I'm the one answering the comments, the post, comments on YouTube. Pretty much all the interaction is me, where Watchful does all the background technical stuff, and he's hard at work doing all that stuff. So it's kind of a good mix because he stays completely consumed working on all the back-end logistics of the website, the app, all our legal paperwork, anything to do with the finances or the money to say, hey, look, we need this much money for us to get our studio. And, like I've said, at some point, neither one of us want to have to continue to work our day jobs. We would really like to do this full time. And once we get to the point where we are financially independent, we're going to start streaming during the morning and the afternoon. But right now, we have commitments, and I don't like asking for money. So those of you that do give to our mission, we're always very appreciative. There's been many, many, many of the viewers who have donated large sums of money, and we're extremely grateful. Everything that we got going on right now, like the website and the app being developed, those things cost money, and you guys are literally funding it. The next thing on our list is we want to get a piece of property, probably somewhere in Tennessee. We're going to get a piece of land, and we're going to build a compound where we'll have a studio. We're going to have each one of our homes there, and everybody involved with the show. We're all going to build homes out there. We're going to have animals and horses and a place for all the kids to play. But we would like to have a private place where guests can fly in for the show, but B, I would love to have a place where all the viewers could come for like big revivals. We can meet each other in person. We got big plans. So that is our plan fundamentally when it comes to the finances. We're going to build a studio, get a place, have a place we can all congregate, be together, where we can all just, be absorbed with the Word of God. Because I think that's what we all love. That's why you guys are here, is because you like to hear the Word of God. And you like to hear, concepts and theories on how things are translated and where we're going with the times and how they're ever changing. So again, I know I said I was going to get off, but I keep talking. Yeah, I keep talking. So now I'm going to go. My little girl needs me. She's out there standing outside of my door asking for daddy. So guys, thank you so much for coming out. Also on the website, we have merchandise. I made a calendar, which is really neat. That's a calendar we have for sale on the merch store. But each page has one of our thumbnail pictures because I generate and make all of our thumbnails. So the calendar that we have for sale is images that we've used in the past for the thumbnails of our show. And it has, it's the two witnesses on the front, but each month will have a unique thumbnail that I've generated and made. So if it interests you guys, there's coffee mugs in there. I ordered a coffee mug so I can stop using. I don't even know what this is. I think it's a superhero or something. But I've ordered a few tank tops that have the truth burns on it, hats. There's all sorts of stuff. There's a cutting board. There's calendars. There's big water bottles like water coolers. There's even canvases you can buy, that wall art that you can put up on the wall. And anything you guys have ideas for that you'd like to see merch. We're going to make stickers. There's actually some little pins, the ones like the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts used to have, but it's the truth burns and whatnot. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for coming out. Everybody have a good night. Not sure if we'll be on tomorrow night. I'll leave that up to Watchful. If something like drastic happens, we'll be on tomorrow night. But otherwise, we'll see you guys Sunday night. And you guys have a wonderful evening. I really love being here with you guys. Good night.